I'm Lynn Katzmann, and I'm here with my dear friend and colleague, Bailey Beeken. This is the first of several interviews that I hope to do today, all with women in the industry. And I purposefully selected a couple of women who either consult or provide service to the industry, a couple of people who operate communities, and a couple of capital sources. So it should be interesting. We're going to start with some very simple questions because all of us got into this industry for some unknown reason, but generally it has something to do with a person. So Bailey, how did you end up in senior living?
It's a great question. And I agree with you that I ask a lot of people that question, and it usually is with someone with a person. For me, it was not. I have been in the conference and content and education industry for many decades now. And I had run a couple of companies. I know that you like women entrepreneurs, and I wanted to be in a place, in a space that I really, that spoke to me. I had done a lot, like if you want to know about the National Aardvarks, I can tell you about that. But I just wanted to be in a space, in a place that I actually cared about versus, being able to make a living in. So I saw a little ad for Lincoln Healthcare, which many people here will know. In the senior living space. And my dad had, it is a person, my dad had recently gone into assisted living. Right. And so I knew what it was. And I immediately thought, I know that industry. And I think it's one that, to be honest, I can age into. I was not a young pup as much anymore. And it was an opportunity. And I can tell you that Lincoln Healthcare was, seminal for me. They do a beautiful job.
They do. That's where I met you.
Yes. And I also just want to say out loud that you were one of my very first calls in trying to, I was launching a new event in senior living instead of SNF and other areas that he was in. And you were so generous with your time. No, and your thoughts. And I'm a sponge. I need to be when I'm learning a new industry. And I can never thank you enough for my
Stop.
But I stepped into it, not knowing really anything at all about it, except starting with those CEO level conferences. And I just fell in love. I think within 6 months, I was like, I have found my home. And a big part of that was the people and their passion for the industry.
Yeah.
I had only been in one other industry. It was my first venture in my own company, which was in, believe it or not, the amusement park industry, which had a lot of privately owned, outside of Disney and Six Flags, everything is privately owned, small groups of various amusement.
That's fascinating.
And they were passionate about serving fun. And that was called Fun Expo. And I'd never had that in 20 years in between. I'd never found a group like that. And when I came into senior living, believe it or not, you guys are just like amusement park operators.
I can't believe it. I can't believe it. But that's the first time I've heard that. But that's good.
Yes, it's a really good thing because of the passion of the service of it. They really felt in service to the people who came to provide them what they promised, which was relief from the outside world. Fun.
So what's our promise?
I believe that your promise,
our value proposition.
I think your value proposition is changing, and we're going to talk about that. I know in a minute.
Yep.
I just came up with a tagline of a value proposition with, and I feel that this is really a big one because of caretaking, which has taken a much bigger space than I started now 14 years ago in this industry. And while there were caretakers, people even then weren't living as long, and the caretaking wasn't as intense, and there were other ways to pay for it, etc. And I think the new tagline should be Reunite with Your Family.
Interesting. So why that?
Why that?
Reunite with your family.
I think caregiving has taken a huge space in people's lives, and in
whether you're doing it directly
with friends, with family, because we're all, no organ recitals, but we're all living longer and things are true. And with family members in particular, when you become the caregiver, you step away from being a family member. You stop asking mom about how her day was and what she did that was interesting. And you're talking about pharmacy pickups.
Right.
And food that you need delivered, right?
Right.
So
and supplies.
So
doctor's appointments.
And I was talking to someone about this. I was like, the messaging is get your family back, reunite with your family. And I really think that's as important as someone's independence. It feeds back into that whole idea, which is a big, mission for the industry, is to allow people to continue to be independent. They feel they're not. They feel they're closing the door by coming into senior living, but actually, from my father's experience and watching others say, oh, that door actually reopens.
I agree with you. And I think one of our value propositions is to say to us, the adult daughters, you can be a daughter again. Instead of a certified medical assistant, which is the role we take on, we can be a daughter. And that's what our parents want. They want their kids back. They want them close. They want to have that relationship. They want to have that emotional connection at that point of life. They have things to transmit. It's just, it's very important. Now, Bailey, you are an exceptionally curious individual who has the unique skill of being able to learn different things and meet different people and bring them together to inform our industry of new things. You've done that. You did that at Lincoln. I think Lincoln's done a very good job of bringing in new ideas, and they continued to do that after you left. SMASH is a great conference. For our marketing and salespeople, they want to go. And it's a conference they choose to go to. And that's because of the content you bring and how you bring it. So tell us a little bit about how you do that and what a couple of the things that you think are most interesting from when you've done that over the last 14 years that you think may have transformed the industry in some way, shape, or form.
Thank you for that question. It's interesting. Industries transform in so many ways. And I think senior living, one of the reasons I really didn't only fall in love with it, have stayed in love with it, is because it has been under it has changed so much in 14 years. I mean, when I first came in, many more single sites. Yeah. M&A was just starting. Yeah. I remember, Nick, when the way you met people is you pasted a number on a column and you said, meet me at column 14. That's what the world that we lived in. And so I think there's been a tremendous amount of change in so many ways, in the consumer, in the way that you deliver services, in the services that have been available.
But you put attention to those changes.
I have,
Bailey, and I think that's really informed how you put together information and been so important in serving our industry, because you make us think differently.
So one of the ways that I did that, again, having done this kind of work for a lot of years, when I decided to start SMASH, the commitment I made there was, I said 80% of our speakers will not be from this industry. And that I felt was very important. I love all of the association shows, but it tends to be a feedback loop, not just in senior living, in every industry. So because...
That's very key. Yeah, 80% outside of the industry. Yes. So we learn from up.
Yes, and they were domain experts. So they were authors, they were TEDx speakers, they were people who could bring new information. And I felt there was a little pushback in the beginning to say, well, we can't translate this. And what I found over 14 years in SMASH is actually you've got the smartest people ever sitting in senior living, in my view, particularly in sales and marketing, but they actually translate that information really, really well. And I try and do it. Of course, it's through the lens of SMASH. I do it in sales and marketing, but I try and bring other conceptual ideas just in general to get people thinking at a bit of a higher level.
Like what? Give us an example.
I have a speaker this year coming, Daniel Stellman, who does ideation.
And how is that relevant?
I think, so one of the issues I've heard lately, and again, this is to your point of I'm listening to so many things that I try and find not just the relevancy for SMASH, but what is it saying about the industry? So one of the things that I've been hearing recently is we're at 94% occupancy. This is fantastic. Well, people aren't building enough, not fast enough, because that slowed down after the pandemic and interest rates. And so if we're not thinking of new ways, for instance, to get revenue up to the occupancy, because it's no longer really now about occupancy, it's about increasing your revenue, and not just saving money, but actually.
So you mean occupancy and rate together make revenue, not just occupancy.
Well, and not just occupancy and rate. You've got now, there's also potentially a cornucopia of other things, as many industries have done. And I know that none of us like paying for baggage now when we go on an airline. I know a lot of us don't like paying for those extras. But the reality is people have acclimated to a la carte.
Yeah.
They have acclimated.
Don't you think boomers prefer to choose what they want?
100%. 100%. They will pay a premium for a la carte, I believe. I mean, again, I follow everything everywhere, and I believe and watch and see on the consumer side, they will pay a premium for a la carte.
So where do you go to for new ideas?
So going back to ideation, just to finish that thought.
Sorry.
If I can't bring people together who are the creators of revenue in your industry, which is marketing and sales, to ideate new ideas, new ways to sell, new things to sell, new products to develop. When I say
You're going to help someone think in a new way.
In a new way,
Okay.
because they're stuck in like, how many digital ads did I do this week? Not because they're wrong, because that's their job. I got to get them at Smash. My job is to get them out of that a little bit, to think more broadly for you, the CEOs and the C-suite, for your capital partners.
I love that. Can you do that across all fields, Bailey? Not just sales and marketing. Can we do that in finance? Can we do it in ops?
I'm going to do it next year at a new show we're launching called Smash Focus. And I bring in ops and sales and marketing and CFOs and hopefully some CEOs and some capital market guys. And we're going to talk about revenue health and how to develop.
Good. And I hope you'll talk about ideation at the beginning.
Yes, absolutely.
Because I think the key to success in our industry, to thrive in our industry, is to realize that what we do today may not be what we need to do tomorrow. And we've got to be, I've always loved thinking outside the box because it's fun. But we as an industry need to do more of it, because you and I, the boomers, we want something else.
I think if that doesn't happen, the new building boom that's about to happen is useless. It's literally, don't bother.
Right.
Because the product that has been being sold, the way it's being sold, which I believe that all this ideation, you don't need new buildings and fancier chandeliers and greater dining. You can think of a lot of other ways to make communities attracted to the boomer if you understand the boomer. And the boomer is not somebody who's held onto a house for 40 years. They're not the silent generation. They're not just about health. They're about reconnecting with family, they've got a whole different mindset. And if you're not taking that mindset into the next generation of how senior housing and senior living is being built, or serviced, because it can certainly be, we heard yesterday at a session, very successfully, a company servicing outside within the community, but not as someone who has renting space.
Yes. Yeah.
And there's more and more of that going on, the village model.
I think that's where it's going to be.
I just, I read everything. I've talked to so many people, and I just believe, one, there are a lot of people who are thinking the same way, thank goodness. But if it doesn't change, it's not going to survive. There will be some other way that or somebody will come up with a way to do it that's going to be way more competitive.
I want to pay you a compliment, Bailey, and thank you, because the way you think is so important to all of us. And I've learned so much from it. I ask you, why ideation? And what you say is because we need people to think differently. So you bring in a speaker who talks about that instead of lecturing people. You need to think differently.
It's a 2-hour workshop. He doesn't just talk about it. He's going to make everybody do it.
Well, I think that's even more, and that's even better. But my point is that you don't throw it in people's faces. You think about, how am I going to allow people to have an aha moment?
Yes.
And you're one of the few people who's consistently, over the 14 years that I've known you, been able to do that. And I can't thank you enough for doing that. Having you as part of our industry has been tremendously important to me as an individual, but I think you bring such depth and insight to us, and you help us get outside of ourselves. And that's really important.
Well, back at you, girl, because without people like you, who I saw taking risks early on, don't, because early on you talked about doing things that everyone else was like, I don't have the nerve to do that. They didn't say exactly those words, but basically they didn't. They were like, status quo It's not as much. It's, yeah, maybe I could try something, but I'm not gonna take that risk. And it was Lynn Katzmann who took the risk.
Yeah, particularly in COVID. But anyway.
But I'm saying, like, without that's, and people often say, and let me just put in a plug for women here. People often say that women aren't risk takers. And I have to tell you that the women entrepreneurs that I know are some of the biggest risk takers that I've ever met.
I agree.
Because they just got nothing left to lose.
Exactly. Somebody looked at me and said, you know, how did you get here? And I said, well, after everybody kept saying you can't do this, I'm little. So it's like they discounted me because of my size. They thought I didn't have a voice. All of a sudden I speak up and it's like, what have I got to lose? All you can say is no.
That's all you can say.
And we resonate with each other and with other people. So yeah, that's really good. So before we run out of time, you have all this insight into our industry. You've been in it for a long time. You have a unique approach to helping us see the future. What do you think the future will look like for senior living? And what do you want it to look like for you?
I think the future can be bright for senior living, but I think what we just talked about is really critically important. That if, again, it's not about building a bigger, better sandbox. It's about thinking a lot about community and finding ways to allow people to continue to be their best selves. And I know that sounds a little bit trite in today's world, and being in sales and marketing, that's a sales and marketing message that's out there. But the reality is that's what do I want?
Yeah.
I want that. I want to be able to the best of my ability, as long as I can, continue to be my best self. And that means for my family, for friends, for relationships. Very quickly, I just moved to a community. I live in New York City, so apartments and living close together is very normal for me. And one of the reasons that I chose the apartment complex that I chose is because it's multi-generational, but I could feel the community. And I was like, community leads over time. That we
and people move out.
You were friends with your kids' parents, and they move away, and people move away. I wanted a place where I knew I didn't need to make that new best friends, but I needed to know that I have a community where I could engage with people.
Okay,
and that's what I want. And when we looked at other places, the thing I kept saying to my husband, I don't see how we're going to meet people. Even there's 400 people in this building. It doesn't feel like that to me. And we went to this complex and I was like, okay,
now you can get it. So it was just, you felt it.
I felt it when I walked in, and I felt it, I had a real.
So how do you define community? So if community is at the heart of what we have to create in senior living, how do you do that? What did you see or feel, if you can put words to it, that made that place different?
There's two things, I think, and I don't know that I have a word. I wish I did, and I'm a wordsmith, so I'm sorry to be at a loss. But two things felt different. They had technology, which for an apartment building,
what kind of technology?
They have a very, very robust intra email system. So you can find out you can ask questions.
So it's like Slack for the apartment building.
So, yes. Okay. And people use it. It's not just there. People are really, they're talking, or do you want to book? Do you want to read a book? Do you want to take a walk? Do you want to? So knowing that was there as somebody who's not afraid of technology, I really loved it. I felt like, okay, I could be sitting.
I love that.
2 months. And all of a sudden I want to have a book club, or not a book club. I want to read a book with a friend, and I don't know who that friend is. I found somebody in the first week I was there who says, I'm looking for somebody, a gal wants to play guitar and sing. Didn't know anything about her. I play guitars. That's my hobby. Okay. So
let me ask you this.
Said yes. And she came over and we've been playing, and I've been playing in bars ever since.
Really? I didn't know that about you. I'm coming. Invite me. Me. So are there older people who are a little bit more infirm in your community?
There are.
And do they participate in on this portal, on this site? And do you get to meet them? So in other words, if people, as they become a little more functionally limited, as things get harder, Are they still included in that community?
Yes, I would say we have everyone, honest to God, from 99 down to 1. And they have I'm not saying as amenities how fancy. It's actually not the fanciest of buildings. As New York City goes, it's very...
But you have a pool, you have tennis courts.
What I was going to say is we have a lot of amenities. So amenities being, we have a pool, we have tennis courts, we have a health club, we have a small restaurant. We have many things that independent living has, that an independent living environment has. So did those people participate? Yes, we have really good... New York City has a lot of rules around ramps and ways that people can move around. The other thing that struck me, and I'll say the second thing that got me, and it ties into this question, is people were inordinately friendly. The people who lived there, the residents. Then I would ask and I would say, gee, how long have you been living here? And they say, oh, I was here 10 years. I've been here 5 years, whatever. It's Shangri-La. If I heard it once, I heard it 3 times, that it was Shangri-La.
That's what the word they actually use.
And I was like, I want to move to Shangri-La. I want to move to Shangri-La. I don't know exactly why you think it's that, but so there's the residents gave me the feeling. I didn't need to get, no real estate agent needed to tell me. The people told me, but to watch. So they do activities. I'm like, okay, I'll do activities. I mean, I'm not like, forced merriment isn't my thing, but so they have like dances in the summer by the poolside. They do enough to keep all kinds of residents of all kinds. They do an Easter egg hunt for the kids. They do, which older residents can participate in. They just started a 4-on-4 basketball league for women over 50. And I'm like, okay, I'm a Liberties fan. I'm in. As soon as this is healed, I'm going to play basketball.
This is really interesting, Bailey. So community fostered or enabled by technology to allow people to come together, and a willingness on the part of the individuals who live there to be open. That seems to be the criteria.
Yeah.
So you've got a naturally occurring intergenerational retirement community.
100%.
Which is really cool. What would make you move to a more traditional senior living community? You wouldn't.
Because the intergenerational piece is really important. For me, I don't interact, and my kids are grown. I don't interact with the younger kids that much, but I love the younger families. Just seeing them, just being around.
So what do we do as as the senior living industry?
So what's interesting to me is not that I like that. It's how do those families, because we skew elderly. Yeah. Not elderly, but we skew older. And there are a number of people who have physical challenges, whether it's with walkers or some wheelchairs,
probably some cognitive challenges as well.
And we have a lot of people who come in, home health, that come into the building and do private home health. Yep. So it's very clear that there is that community there. So I say to myself, as a younger family, why would you move here? Like, why are you in a more groovy spot? And for them, one, it's affordable. So all of a sudden, by having older people who can afford a little more, it makes the whole opportunity affordable. And
you mean the older people subsidize the younger people?
Don't subsidize, but by having 2 generations, and it is a less expensive place in New York City, which is impossible to even say those words out loud, but it is a less expensive place to live. And I think that's very attractive. And because anyone can move there, it's not a gated community in that way, because it's less expensive. And I think part of that is because people don't necessarily want to be in a more of a Newark situation. For these families, there's a great school right across the street, but you wouldn't know it if, because it's also partly saying, yes, we'll take a different age in. Yeah. And we're going to service them a little differently, but they're still paying the same.
So should senior living people who are thinking about develop in an area where they can insert a senior living community into an intergenerational neighborhood? Should senior living communities open up their common spaces in a different way? How can senior living capitalize on it?
I certainly think in this world and in this environment that we're in right now in new building, so you charge a certain amount because older people need more services, right?
Correct.
Younger people with 2 kids that are in...
They need daycare.
They need daycare, but they also need lower cost housing. So, but they don't need services. So they don't need lower cost housing that doesn't make you a profit, but they don't need a $6,000 a month apartment. They may need a $4,000 a month apartment or three, because they need no services, right? Other than shared amenities and things that.
So I'm saying senior living, if we could, should open up our apartments to younger people.
Particularly in independent. I mean, obviously assisted is a different, but if you're putting assisted with, then have it adjacent to. You know, what you're opening yourself up to is also opportunities for people who want to volunteer, who on both sides, daycare, or opportunities to volunteer on the other side for lectures or things or learnings or teaching tech or any number of things. I just think the intergenerational idea and affordable housing, those two issues are so critical that it doesn't feel impossible to me to make a profit on both.
So we need to do the numbers, Bailey.
Yes. Well, if everyone comes next May, we are going to be stress testing and running a lot of Monte Carlos on our ideations to see what the numbers are.
I'm really excited. I hope I'll be invited. I will come.
Absolutely.
I will come.
Okay.
I think we're probably out of time today, but I could talk with you for the rest of my life. So, and I will.
Okay. Thank you so much, Lynn. It was great to catch up yesterday and even better today. So thank you so much.
Love you, Bailey.
Love you.